Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Now today we're going to be going over shot descriptions, and the best way I know how to do this is with pictures. So what I thought we'd do today is work on a sequence or one of the opening sequences from the movie Christmas Vacation. Now I can't play the clip for copyright reasons, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go over each of the shot frames, and we'll be describing them as we go along. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so for simplicity purposes, we're going to call this first scene scene one. And even though it's not the first scene of the movie, this is the sequence where the Griswolds go out to find the Griswold family Christmas tree. Okay, this is one of my favorite scenes in the movie. And I thought it would be fun to just go over these shots. All right, so I want you to imagine as if you were actually doing this movie yourself. All right. And the first scene that that we're going to be doing right now is going to be the first shot of the day, and then pretend, we're going to go through this rest of the day, and this is how we're going to be shooting our shots. Okay, so let's get to our first shots. Okay, so here we have our first couple of shots. Now, again, we're going to call this scene one. And our first shot is going to be an extreme wide shot of the hero family. That's our short description. The long description is walks left to right across the snow, away from camera, and then you put the order that they're in. And that's very important, especially in this situation for story reasons, because Audrey is supposed to be trailing behind because she makes a comment that, oh, Mom, I can't feel my hips. So she really, well, neither one of them want to be there, but especially Audrey doesn't want to be there. So it's important to know what order that they're in. So again, it's Clark leads, followed by Ellen, Rusty, then Audrey. So then our next shot is going to be scene one apple. And our short description is going to be an extreme wide shot of the hero family. Now we add a little bit onto this because we need to tell the editor that what's the difference between this first shot and the second shot. They're both extreme wide shots, but what's the difference? Well, this second shot is another angle and it's slightly tighter. Okay, so, and also your long description shows that they're walking left to right from the trees towards the camera in the same order as scene one. Okay, so that tells the editor a little that the first scene one, they're walking into the forest, so it would be most likely towards the beginning of this scene. Of course, when they shot this, they didn't shoot any dialogue because they're so wide. This was all voiceover. And then when they shot the second shot, they moved all the cameras, and then of course now they're coming out and they reveal the tree. So it's important to make sure that you write that description down. Now I want to make a note as to shooting in snow. Whenever you're shooting in snow, they usually shoot the wide shots first, and then they move in. The reason being is because of the snow. You don't want to be traipsing through all of that snow. If you look at these shots, that snow is pristine. So you know that this is one of the first shots that they shot because you don't have the crew traipsing all over that snow, because the whole intent of this scene is that they're walking into the forest to find this tree, and they're supposed to be going into the boonies where nobody else is gone. So they want to make sure that it's pristine. And that's another reason why you don't want to be, when you go and you set up your station by Video Village, you do not want to go off and start walking around in that snow, because you're going to get one of the ADs coming after you, running after you, saying, hey, get off that snow. That's our set. So that's very important. Okay, so let's go on to our next shot. Okay, so here's the next shot in our sequence, and it's one baker. And our short description, again, when we do short descriptions, we want to put the size and the subject, or whoever the character is. And in this case, it's going to be a medium close-up / close-up Clark. That's the short description. And then the long description basically talks about, the shots and how they relate to each other. So for example, Clark enters camera left. Okay, so he's coming in from camera left into a medium close-up, which is that first shot there. And then the camera pushes into a close-up when he actually sees the tree. And he's looking off screen right to the tree, and he exits camera right. Okay, so That's very important to note which way he's looking to that tree because we know where the tree is in relation to where he's standing and looking, okay? And that's when we go into screen direction. And we'll get into that in another video, but for now, that's what we call screen direction for those of you who are new to that. Okay, so our next shot would be one Charlie. And if you notice something different in this shot, we have a V in front of it. Now, the reason we put a V in front of it is because there's a visual effect in this shot. So we would call this Victor one Charlie. And the visual effect is going to be that light that is going to be put in post later on for, for this shot. And it's also going to be used as Clark's POV. So you want to make a note there. So the description would be a wide shot tree. Clark enters camera left towards tree, also to be used for Clark's POV. And then of course, you want to make a note here that the visual effect would be the light on the tree to be put in post. Now, understand something. A true POV would be from Clark's point of view. So if you notice, he's coming in from camera left, and if he were to be looking at that tree, his point of view would be from the side of the tree, not from in front of the tree. But that's okay. It's not a big deal. The director used this as his POV as well as the wide shot of him coming into the shot. But you want to make a note here that the director's going to say, you know what, I want to use this as his POV too. So you want to make sure that you put this in the notes so the editor's not looking for a separate shot for his POV. Okay, so here's our next shot, and this is one Denver, and it's a full shot of Clark, short description. He enters camera left towards the tree, which is camera right, to stop. Now, notice something very important here. Look at that snow, very pristine, he's walking up into it. If you remember in the long shot, the wide shot, there was no footprints anywhere. But now, and now we've moved in, so if you can imagine, now the whole crew is moving in, but we still need to have that snow pristine, where he is at. So you see he's making fresh snow tracks to that tree. So that's really important. Okay, here's our next shot, one echo, and I describe this as medium full shot 3, medium full 3 shot of Rusty followed by Ellen and Audrey. Now, our long description is going to be walking towards camera. They're walking towards the camera and to exit camera right, which is what they did. They're looking camera right to Clark and the tree, which is off screen right. All right, so we don't see the tree in shot and we don't see Clark in shot, but we know that they're looking, when we're shooting this, they're looking camera right to where Clark and the tree are. Now, it's important to understand, or maybe you've already noticed it, what is the order that they're in? Remember in that long shot, who was in the front and then who followed Clark? It was Clark, then Ellen, then Rusty, and then Audrey. Now, all of a sudden, we have this shot where Rusty's in the front and then Ellen's behind him. Now, most likely what happened here was they did this shot and they realized that Rusty's really small and he probably got buried behind Ellen there. So they decided to put him in the front. But they had already shot those other shots, which is fine because there's enough of a time lapse there that you could technically think that they changed positions when they were coming around the tree or whatever. So, but nevertheless, what you want to do is you want to point it out to the director, whether okay, you already know that's probably what they did, why they did it that way, but you still want to point it out to the director. Just want to point out in those long shots, Ellen was in front of Rusty. Are you okay with Rusty being in front of Ellen? And if you didn't hear that conversation of him telling the actors, I want Rusty in the front, he'll probably turn to you and say, no, I decided that I want Rusty in the front because he's going to be buried behind Ellen, which is fine. That's okay. It's his decision how he wants to make it, but it's your job to point it out to him. Okay, the next shot in this sequence is called One Frank. And the short description is a medium close-up of Clark, Ellen, Rusty, and Audrey. And whenever I put the characters' names, I always put them in the order that they are that they show up or are positioned. In this case, I put it in the order that they walked into frame. So this is just a note. So you can either put it in the order that you see them in the frame or the order that they walked into the frame. In my situation, I want to remember how they walked in, because if we do a high angle, which I'll show you in a second, a high angle of them standing looking up at the tree, if we shot them walking in, I have to make sure that they walk in the same order that they walked in. So my long description would be Clark profile looks off-screen right to the tree. Ellen enters camera left to stand right of Clark, followed by Rusty, which is that middle shot there, to stand camera right of Ellen. And then the next shot, the last shot, it's Audrey enters camera left to stand left of Clark. Okay? And it's like I said, it's real important to make sure you make a note of how they entered, because you want to match that in other shots other angles that you will be shooting this. Okay, here's our next shot, which is one George, or golf, one golf. And it is our short description is a medium long shot, high angle of Audrey, Clark, Ellen, and Rusty. In this situation, they're already there, so I'm just going to put them in the order that I see them. So it's Audrey, Clark, and then Ellen and Rusty. And they're looking up to tree camera right. So the tree is camera right, and they're all looking up to it. Now, notice something in that snow. You could tell they've done a couple of these shots already, because look at all the snow that's walking around Audrey. So if she just walked up and stepped into pristine snow, you wouldn't have all of those footprints there. So that's why it's real important to make sure that the actors know not to walk around in that snow too much, because it's not gonna track. Because if they just walked up to that tree, like remember he walked into the snow and it was pristine, and then all of a sudden Ellen came in, and then Rusty, which is fine, their footprints are okay on where they're standing, but then Audrey came in, and look at all those footprints around there. She most likely was stepping around, and then they did a few more takes, and then she went back. So there's a lot more footprints there than really should be, but you can't help it, because that's what happens in snow. So those are the things that you have to really look out for. Okay, now here we are. Our next shot is one hotel. And this is a close-up of Clark. It's still a high angle because we're looking down at him. He's looking up to tree off screen. What is he looking at? Camera left, okay? That crosses the screen direction. He really should be looking camera right to the tree, right? Because the tree was on the right side all the time. So when you go to shoot this, and you see that he's looking the wrong direction, first thing you want to do is point it out to the director. Hey, he should be looking camera right, or you don't want to put it that way. What you want to say is, did you mean for him to look camera left? Because in all the other shots, he was looking camera right to the tree, or the tree was on the right side. And he'll say, oh yeah, that's right. Let's have him look camera right. Great. But say all those wide shots and all those other shots they were doing with a double, which they probably did, where they were traipsing through the snow. They probably didn't use Chevy Chase for that. And this is the first shot that they're shooting with him, and they haven't even maybe they haven't even shot those other shots yet. And first thing you're gonna say to the director, or ask the director, is, okay, where is the tree going to be? Is it going to be camera right, or is it going to be camera left? Because you haven't shot those yet. And if they say, well, you know what, we're not sure where the tree is going to be because it depends on the light, which way the light is coming in, we'll decide that later. My suggestion is going to be, okay, great, but would you mind if we do one take of him looking camera left and another take of him looking camera right? That way we're covered if you do decide to have the tree on the right side. And it's a short shot, so most likely they're going to say yes. But this way you're covered in the editing room if they do, shoot it the other way. But this clearly, crosses the line on the screen direction where he's looking, which way he's looking for the tree. Okay, so that's it for this sequence, and I hope you learned something. If you have a different way that you want to describe these shots, write them in the comments so that other people can see them as well. Because again, I think one way and you think another way, and we describe things differently. So it doesn't mean that my way is right and your way is wrong. It just means that it's just different. So this way, if you write it in the comments, other people can see how you would describe certain shots, and it might help somebody else. So it really does help. Another way that my instructor used to tell me to do, he used to tell me to turn the sound off when you're watching a movie and try to describe the shots in your head, which is a really different way of watching a movie when you think about it, because you don't have the distractions of the story and the dialogue and all of that, and you're only focusing on picture. So that's another way of practicing your shot descriptions. Okay, so that's it for now, and I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please subscribe. That really helps me out. And we'll see you on the next one.